if the US doesn't win, it loses. And if Iran doesn't lose or capitulate, it wins.
The West Asia conflict heads into the third week, moderation, both of words and actions, seems to be at a premium. The killing of Ali Larizani today will certainly add fuel to the fire. The world is facing an unprecedented economic crisis as the Brent crude oil, that benchmark of oil, has hit $103 per barrel today on the 17th of March. Because the crisis of Strait of Hormuz is no closer to resolution. And if there is no end to this conflict at an early date, the world will surely go into a recession. To discuss the various actors in this theater of gloom and doom, we have with us General Shokin Chauhan, former DG of Assam Rifles. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Always such a pleasure to be with you
Sir.
and to, have thought-provoking discussions.
Sir.
The world, as you know, is at fire. And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, how it's going to happen tomorrow. The world order is totally changed.
Yes, sir.
We can only try and make sense कि हो क्या रहा है और क्यों हो रहा है. You know, the main thing is that every question and every question starts with ये क्यों करा? Why did he do this? Why did he start this?
Yes, sir.
And so I welcome a discussion on these important things. Truly, we are in difficult times, both economically, militarily, in every manner. Where the world is in difficult times.
So I'll start off with the question pertaining to this Iranian. They have the Iranian attacks on the Gulf countries, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have launched ballistic missiles and drones at 11 Gulf countries and counting. God knows what's going to happen in the future. The UAE's Ministry of Defense, I had the data. It shows that the 12th of March, Iran, they had intercepted 268 ballistic missiles, 15 cruise missiles, and 1,514 drones. I mean, this is just second only. I mean, very close, running Israel very closely under the attacks they're facing. Now, the Dubai airport has been attacked repeatedly. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Iraq, they've all been hit. So I'm just trying to understand the Iranian mindset, the military mindset, the strategic mindset, the political mindset, for the reasons for attacking the very countries which could have basically played a role in moderating the US and Israel attacks on Iran. Because I was reading this New York Times report also, which says that Mohammed bin Salman, the Prince of Saudi Arabia and the de facto ruler, has been repeatedly asking Donald Trump to go after Iran in a very hard manner. So why is Iran acting in the manner it is?
Mayank, this is probably the one question that actually answers itself. ये जो आप पूछ रहे हैं, let's break it down. Where is America attacking Iran from? America, as you know, has bases in Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. These bases are the logistic bases from which are feeding the American forces, the American fleets that are there. They have their radars there. They have their ballistic missiles there. They have their counter air defense there. So if these countries have allowed the US bases to be activated and to allow the US to attack Iran from their bases, then in anyone's language, and definitely in Iran's, they become legitimate targets. You cannot have a system where you say you're neutral, but you allow another nation to come to that place and attack the other nation. That can't happen. I think only Pakistan gets away with that. And I still don't know how. But other than that, I've not seen in any kind of situation where a country says it's neutral, but at the same time allows the US to attack, or any country to use its land to attack another country. That's the first issue. Where Iran sees them as launch pads for US attacks, and therefore they become, as I said, legitimate targets as per their doctrine. But what is the signal that Iran is giving? That is an important thing, Mayank, that we should look at all the time. What it's telling them is you support the US and you pay the price. Don't only think that we will be degraded, we will continue to degrade you. Now, here, nobody really thought that Iran had the capability of counterattacking after their entire leadership was wiped out. What was really war gamed in the US and in Israel and all these places was that kill the leadership, the second rung will break away and ask for peace. And they will then support the US. This was the simplistic way of looking at कि once you kill this leadership, you will be able to get hold of the second rung of leadership. They killed the entire leadership, maybe the first and second rung. But Iran is a civilizational state, Mayank. 5,000 साल से it's been a state. Persia has been one of the greatest empires of the old world. You can't wipe out a nation like this just by wiping out two rungs of leadership. And they had war gamed. Iran had war gamed exactly what might happen and had been able to give this order to say that if this happens, decentralize and continue to attack. The targets that have been chosen by the Iranian Republican Guard are very carefully chosen. They're doing it in stages. That is also very carefully done. The attacks on oil, ports, desalination plants. What does it mean? Economic coercion. It's breaking the US coalition partners. For the first time, Dubai, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi are questioning themselves that why did we get into this war? Till now, if you know, Mayank, the Dubai reality market has fallen by over 40%. It was supposed to be the safest country in the world. It was supposed to be the center of the world's aviation. All flights flying west and east would land there, change and move further. They have lost huge amount of money, not just by their attacking on their oil installations, but the fact that they have hit what was considered to be the safest place in the world. For the last 50 years, Mayank, they have built this situation that the Gulf is supported and protected by the United States of America. That has now broken now. So they have aimed to create fear, which they've done. A lot of expatriates have left Dubai already. A lot of them are leaving. They're selling whatever they have and they're fleeing the nation. They've increased the cost of alignment with the US. And they've prevented the formation of a unified anti-Iran bloc because the population is not used to war. Iran has fought a war with Iraq before this. They're continuously in some kind of problem or the other. Their population is capable of taking this kind of hits, whereas the Gulf populations have never got taken these hits. Right? For the last 3 to 4 generations, they've been absolutely at peace. They've watched the others being hit, but they've never been hit. So the capability of a nation to take a hit is something that is very important. And that's where I feel that what Iran has done is it has increased this to a point at which these nations and their populations are now questioning that why have we allowed the US there? Why didn't we take a stand? We are being hit. Our life is being hit. And their life is actually being hit. The second thing, you spoke of MBS and you spoke of the fact that he told the US to hit Iran. We are aware, not for now, but पिछले 1,000 साल से, there is the Shia-Sunni divide. Saudi Arabia is a Shia Sunni country. Iran's the center of the world's Shia part of Islam. It's the center. And when they killed Ayatollah Khamenei, they killed the supreme leader of the Shia community all over the world. So whether the Shias in India or the Shias in Pakistan or the Shias anywhere in the world have been affected by this. So this has split the Arab world into the Sunnis and the Shias. And the Shias have not liked that. It forces them into a dilemma, Mayank. Align with the US or ensure your own survival. It's also said that we will allow your oil to go through. ये भी बोला है. So the narrative that we were talking about before is confusing the people. It is trying to divide them that tell the US to go away, we'll allow your oil to go through. They all live on desalination plants. So it's made their life insecure. And the second thing is the Iranian way of war. The idea that Iran never fights only in its own territory. If you've seen, they have created this set of proxies. The Hezbollah, the Houthis, all around its periphery, they've created this set of proxies who are engaging in battles with Israel and with other countries. The Houthis are funded by Iran. So Iran by nature has always taken the battle forward, increased its strategic depth. So that is what it has done. It has pushed the conflict forward. It has diluted the pressure, and it has increased the pressure on this U.S. Israel coalition. You can imagine the people will be asking them, "Kab nikloge yaar? When were you going to finish this? When will the Straits of Hormuz open?" And see the ladder, the escalation ladder. You take your mind back to Operation Sindoor. We very tightly controlled the escalation ladder. पहला दिन ये करा, दूसरा दिन ये करा, तीसरा दिन ये करा, fourth day we did that, 88 hours finished. We said it's finished. The control of the escalation ladder, the end point was clear to us. कि हमने इधर तक मारना है, इससे ज्यादा नहीं मारेंगे. That is not clear now in the US. They had planned for the escalation ladder till they hit the leadership. उसके बाद में they thought that Iran would rise up against the Ayatollahs and actually come and say, "Yaar, come take over the country, take over our oil." They didn't expect this. And the other thing you've noticed is their ballistic missiles have a range lesser than 2,500 kilometers. ये क्यों? Because they do not want the US to think that they will be escalating the war to a point at which they will target the US homeland. And if you're not targeting the US homeland, it becomes very difficult for the US to use larger weapons. Who will they answer to if the US decides to use nukes? They were not threatened by Iran. Their homeland was not threatened by Iran. Their mainland was not threatened by Iran. Peripheral homeland, but this is post-attack. So see the plan. The well thought out plan was that when you created these ballistic missiles, but because when they were discussing, they told them that you are not the target. We have no missile that goes beyond 2,500 kilometers. We cannot hit your mainland. It becomes difficult for the US to do that. So these are the reasons why, Mayank, this is the problem that is there. This is the problem why they're hitting the Gulf countries. This is why they will continue to hit the Gulf countries and continue to make this cost higher for supporting the US.
Sir, I want to come to Strait of Hormuz and try to understand as to what exactly is going on there. But before that, sir, your answer gives me a couple of queries which I have. We have seen the US armies in action around the world. We have seen them in Iraq. Recently, I would say, we have seen starting from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. I mean, it's been a long story. Somehow there's some certain things where they don't seem very good at holding land. They seize a territory somehow, and then they find it very difficult to hold on to it and want to get out of it at the first sight of a fight, I would say. And then the ability to absorb the pain, because maybe it's a very affluent society. I'm not very sure as to what exactly the reasons, and you kindly correct me on that if I'm wrong. And so, and this time around, and President Trump, he is today only said that he was not aware of the Iranian missile, ballistic missile systems and their lethality sort of a. So how do you see this situation evolving vis-a-vis the US Army? How long before the pain starts to hurt?
See, you're talking of two different things. You're talking of military damage to the US homeland, the mainland,
No, sir, I'm
and
not
you're
talking.
talking of
No, sir,
economic issues
sir, I
to the
was,
US.
sir, I was talking of the ability, the inability,
Yes.
I would say, to have a decisive victory in a different
Yeah.
war
So
theater.
let me, yeah,
Yes, sir.
but it really comes down to this. When you have an expeditionary force, Mayank, and the US has an expeditionary force, that expeditionary force is meant to do damage, not to occupy. You see, occupation of enemy territory is a very difficult process. For despite its complete effort post World War II when they went into Vietnam, they could not occupy Vietnam. Even at that stage, they kept it at South Vietnam and not North Vietnam.
Mm.
Same thing happened in Korea. Even in Afghanistan, the Central Command, the US Central Command, which went in with a coalition of 17 countries, giving each country separate places for them to hold. But even then, it was an expeditionary force. It had not planned to stay for 20 years. The, there is a difference in the perception of the way the US fights a war to the way Asian or countries which do not have the capability of the US, how they fight a war. These are two totally different perceptions. Occupation requires huge amount of troops, and those troops are simply not available. When they occupied Iraq, if you remember, they demilitarized the Iraq army, disbanded it. What happened? The same Iraq army, which had been disbanded, became insurgents, became terrorists, started attacking them, developed smaller groups. And after a while, the US simply didn't have the capability to go further. So when that happens, and you don't have the moral authority to go inside a country and to stay there for 20 years, because that's what it'll take to subdue a population which is used to the fact that they have been in continuous battle. It takes a huge effort, Mayank. That effort the US was not willing to put. They had not even thought that they would have to move beyond the initial strike on their leadership. To tell you the truth, I don't think President Trump, had even thought that he would need to go beyond the third day when they had hit the leadership, and they were waiting for the leadership to be overtaken by Iranian protests. And the new set of leaders would take up and say, okay, we have peace and we will now have peace with you. So these are two different issues, Mayank. And we must not confuse this ability or inability to hold land. That requires a different kind of expeditionary force. This requires a different kind of ability. Because the US way of fighting war has always been strategic targeting. They have developed their weapon systems, they've developed their technologies, they've developed their weapons, they've developed their ammunition to fight wars from far away. The kind of targeting that they can do from sitting in the US, only they have that capability. But they cannot, no country can just go and sit in another country and hope कि यार और कुछ नहीं होगा. That's not possible.
Yes, sir. So I'll come to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this nearly a universal consensus. The final battle in perception also, sir. I'm not talking of the military battle only. Will be fought in the battle of in the Strait of Hormuz because it's closed as of now. Closed simply for the reason that Iran has got the capacity and the capability to do damage, and insurers are staying away from insuring ships. So that itself leads to a closer sort of a thing. Now, even if Trump declares victory, sir, without opening, because he's apt at declaring victories. What happens if he declares victory without ensuring a free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz? How will the world basically perceive? Because Iran, if it still controls Strait of Hormuz, will Trump be a victor in the eyes of the world that he's won? And by closing one of the most important economic choke points, I would say, and holding it to ransom. Basically, the whole of Asian region, the trade around the world is being held to ransom. Will the Iranian forces also show the limitations of US power? How important is this battle, sir? Economically, strategically, militarily, and politically?
See, Mayank, you have to once and again understand perceptions of victory.
Hmm.
Uh, when the US, which is a huge military power, the largest in the world, more than 10 times, 20 times, 30 times any other power is, if the US doesn't win, it loses. And if Iran doesn't lose or capitulate, it wins. So while the destruction in Iran, Tehran, and all over has been immense, the fact that the government has not capitulated means that Iran is winning the war. US, not even one part of the US has been touched, but it is still losing the war. It is losing perceptionally. Now you come to the Straits of Hormuz. I asked this question of myself earlier today that why is it so difficult? Why can't the US just go and occupy both the sides of the Straits of Hormuz and open up everything? But the answer there lies in the geography of the Straits of Hormuz. That at the narrowest point, it is just 21 kilometers, 21 miles. And the Iran controls the islands and the northern coastline, which is on the Straits of Hormuz. And this island makes it, it takes a round like that, makes it ideal for mining, ambush, missile fire. And Iran has had 20 years to plan this war. 20 साल से वो plan कर कि अगर somebody forces us, we will close this. And once we close it, you can't go through. The channel is 21 kilometers, but the available channel is just 12 kilometers. 12 to 15 kilometers is the available movement of this. Now, supposing one ship is sunk there, or two ships are sunk there, the Straits of Hormuz are closed. So Iran has started using what it calls a multi-layered anti-access strategy. What are these layers? Your first layer are coastal anti-ship missiles. It has unlimited number of missiles that it has been making over the last 20 years. This Salsa, it has just been making these missiles, planning how they will stop people. Secondly, naval mines. Laying mines is very easy and very quick. Getting mine layers, demining ships is a very difficult process, Mayank. Minesweepers, they are a separate type of ship. These ships take a long time sweeping these mines. So while laying mines, it's easy. Now the third layer, the first layer I said was coastal anti-ship missiles. The second layer was the naval mines. Third are the fast attack boats. The same swarm tactics that drones use in the air, these are drones in the sea. They're loaded with uh, explosives, targeted, and said, go and hit. आप कितने मारोगे? You send 100, and they will do great amount of damage. Then the use of drones. They've got drones. They've got that Shahed, which costs so little, and a 50 kg explosive. So you can use that. And of course, they have submarines. Say now the submarines have been all broken and finished, but you have 4 to 5 layers along the Straits of Hormuz. That is the first thing, that they have planned for this battle, and this is how they're fighting it. Now, as I told you, the mines are cheap, the mines are hard to detect, they're very slow to clear, and clearing requires time consuming, high risk operations, which at the moment they haven't got into. Tankers. Now, let's talk about who's actually using these.
Mm.
Our oil tankers are slow,
Mm.
large, and defenseless. The highest speed the tanker goes is probably 15 to 20 knots.
Okay.
If they're going at that speed and they can be hit, one successful hit on a tanker, Mayank, will create global panic. कोई आएगा ही नहीं उधर से. And as you said, oil has reached 103, it will go to 250.
Mm.
It's going to be like that. Now, what are the problems? You can hold both sides: civilian vessels, disguised threats, swarm boats. All these create problems in the dilemma of the military commander who is looking at what he calls the rules of engagement. कि यार, when I have the rules of engagement, who am I going to engage? Am I going to engage the naval vessels? Am I going to engage disguised naval vessels? Supposing some vessel is not disguised, तब क्या करोगे आप? You have hit a civilian tanker or you hit something else. So these are the dilemmas that are there. And Iran doesn't need total control. Geography is helping it out. As I said, वो अगर आप map लगा देंगे उधर, and you'll be able to explain how geography is doing that. Insurance rates are high, oil has gone up higher. These are all situations. But to tell you the truth, Russia has a huge amount of oil. America has a huge amount of oil. I can't even see why it should affect America.
Mm.
America has the highest amount of oil. America has access to Venezuela oil, which does not need the Straits of Hormuz. कि oil ऊपर जा रहा है, it is going only in the Asian countries. It is not hitting Western Europe, who have access to Russian sea lanes. So these are the issues that are there. That full clearance requires strikes on the mainland, which are being hit, destruction of missile batteries, which have been hit, but still have not been cleared, and full-scale regional war to hai. So America is trying to bring in more nations, saying, send your minesweepers, clear the mines if there are mines. If you notice, even NATO allies have not gone in because they know the risks, Mayank. These are the risks. And the threat cycle is that even if this is cleared, Iran can remine it. Iran can re-attack it. Iran can redeploy. There is no permanent solution to this. So when you talk of declaring victory, there is no question that the world will accept a declaring of victory without the access through the Straits of Hormuz. ये मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था that America declaration of victory would have been removal of the government and the total surrender of the Iranian forces. They made that their point. He has said it कि I will declare victory at this point. इन्होंने ये नहीं बोला on the first day when they hit the leadership that I will declare victory at the decimation of Ayatollah Khomeini in his cabinet. If they had said that once they decimated Ayatollah Khomeini's cabinet and the rung of leadership and said, okay, we're stopping the war now, it would be very difficult too for Iran to start it. There was no need to go further. But वो हुआ नहीं. This is to my point. That when you created an issue that my declaration of victory is dependent upon absolute surrender of the Iranian political authority, then how can you now declare victory here? So again, I take your mind back to Operation Sindoor. What did we say? We will hit terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. हमने ये नहीं बोला कि हम चेंज करेंगे गवर्नमेंट. हमने ये नहीं बोला कि हम we will hit the Pakistan army. We just said this. And we stopped it at that. It is after Pakistan retaliated that we hit them again. After they retaliate, we hit them again. But we didn't make anything about declaration of victory. So this ambiguity will remain. The last point you spoke about was the narrative war. As I said, the narrative war is clear. Ki victory is declared at this point. If you don't win, you lose.
Mm.
So that is the narrative. Narrative this can't change because everyone in America also is making fun of the president
Mm.
that he brought them into a war that you're unprepared for. Wars by nature have to be fought from beginning to end through a very tightly controlled escalation cycle. If you haven't controlled it, you've lost it. So अभी जैसे घूम रहा है, you have no idea at all. It's a political constraint. America goes into elections this November. There is limited international support. Even the NATO is having a problem. Allies are reluctant to commit any kind of forces. एक aircraft carrier भेजा है ब्रिटेन ने, and that too they're keeping away.
Mm.
And what did President Trump say? We don't need your help. So when you're telling your allies we don't need you, so that one thing you should understand, Mayank, that Iran is fighting a denial war, not a war for victory. It can't defeat the US. No one can defeat the US. Just fighting a denial war. It cannot defeat the US conventionally. It knows it and it has never tried to. But what it can do and what it is doing is choking global energy. It is destabilizing the Gulf, which was the most safest part of the world. It is raising the costs about US political tolerance. Beyond this, US at a point will not accept it. You can already see so much opposition to his war. He has not taken authorization from the Congress. So this war can start anytime. In fact, I think in 17 hours or 18 hours, the government will again stop functioning as it happened earlier. The core of Iran's strategy is to win by making the battlefield too expensive to control.
Mm.
So this is what I feel is the situation, Mayank.
Sir, by bombing the Kharg island and sparing the oil installations, US seems to be sending a message. It is also perhaps sending an attachment of a what they call an amphibious ready group and marine expeditionary force. So it seems that the US is indicating that Kharg Island could be the pressure point on Iran to relieve pressure on the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if push comes to shove, sir, my thing is that because Kharg is an important outlet for the Iranian oil exports, I have this data which says that it is 90% of the Iranian oil flows through Kharg Island. It makes up for 50% of their budget, 60% of their revenue, 80 to 90% of the distribution points for their oil. In case it happens, sir, and the US makes a military move on with boots on ground or indulges in a blockade of this island to pressurize Iran, how strong will this escalation be for the Iranian forces?
See, as you said, Mayank, Kharg Island is 90% of Iran's oil goes through Kharg Island, and Iran's economy is heavily dependent upon its oil exports. And even under sanctions, the Kharg Island was actually the main outlet for its revenue generation. So if the US is able to occupy Kharg Island and attack it, it actually breaks Iran's economy totally. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about it. The operational reach into the Gulf, it is located on the northern Persian Gulf, close to the shipping islands, the shipping lanes. But if it is taken over, Iran's ability to ship oil from anywhere finishes. It just stops. It's a very high value target. And historically, it was targeted in the tanker war also of the 1980s. And Iraq repeatedly attacked the Kharg Island to choke Iran's economy. It is, to my mind, telling the Iranians that your economic survival is at risk. by taking the Kharg Island. So it will hit Iran very, very hard. And if they are able to take it, then it will be a huge moral ascendancy, economic ascendancy over Iran, because it has absolutely no other capability for economic revenues. None. None at all. I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, Iran tried to develop alternate terminals like Jusk, etc. But the capacity was limited and the infrastructure was not fully comparable. So they tried, they understood that it was a problem, that Kharg Island is vulnerable, tried to develop an alternative, but they've not been able to do that. The pipelines are there, concentrated storage facilities are there, it is easily identifiable. So this is ideal for airstrikes, missile strikes, sabotage. But the impact on global energy markets will be huge. And that's why I feel the US is not hitting the oil tanks yet. But if it continues like that, any target then becomes logical to hit and to degrade Iran's capability economically. So you're right. Kharg Island is a very major target for them, and it can have very great ramifications for Iran.
And ramifications for the Gulf, sir. Saudi Arabia could be the next target of Iran. They have huge oil installation capacities.
If if they're able to take it, it can actually literally force Iran to negotiate, or it can trigger escalation. There's no doubt about it. So it's a important thing. The strategic bottom line is Kharg Island is Iran's economic center of gravity. High value, high risk target. A lever that can actually change the dynamics of this war. No doubt about it. It's the choke point of global war, global oil. That's how important it is.
Sir, one final question, sir. About the Iranian capacities, we have seen drones, ballistic missiles, economic chokeholds in the Hormuz. We have seen information warfare at play where Prime Minister Netanyahu had to come through a visual and show that he's got 5 fingers, asking people to count his fingers to show that he is safe and sound. And then we have the cyber warfare, all sorts of stuff. I mean, one would almost feel that Iran has established a copybook asymmetric warfare doctrine. My question is this, sir, because we have seen this with Ukraine also. Is this the future? Is this how the future wars will be fought? Because this is all leaving the muscular militaries at a very disadvantage. The Americans are at a disadvantage fighting this sort of war. So is this how the future of war looks like to you?
See, the character of war, let's just divide two issues. The character of war is changing based on the technologies available today. And today we've moved into the era of the multi-domain war, wherein you have your land, sea, space, cyber, narrative, underwater, all activated at the same time. So the narrative war is something that the US is a master of, absolute master. But because the war is unpopular in the US, they're not able to get the narrative of why they attacked Iran correctly. If there wasn't so much opposition in the US, if they had planned this attack better, they had planned the narrative better, if they had planned their allies better, then they wouldn't have lost the narrative, the control of this narrative. But because today they're seen as the attackers, they're seen as bullies, they're not getting any sympathy. But narrative war is very much a part of any future war that is going to be fought now. You've seen what Pakistan did during Op Sindur. At 3:15, our aeroplanes hit Pakistani terrorist targets. At 3:45, Pakistan was already on air telling everybody that we had downed so many planes. And that narrative continued and still continues, that they won the war because they downed so many planes. Absolutely false, but it still continued. So this is the issue about narrative warfare. If you do not plan for it, you lose it. Pakistan only planned for the narrative war, so it continues to hold the narrative in their hand. And forcing Netanyahu, because it said Netanyahu was killed. Today, another information says that the chief of the Israeli armed forces, Gallant, Lieutenant General Gallant, is killed. It also says that the defense minister is killed. So, narrative very much a part of the war, and they should understand that in the future of the character of war, this is going to happen. In multi-domain, this is a very major part of any kind of warfare that's going to be fought.
Sir, we would like to conclude on that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Very interesting discussion.
Thank you, sir.